Hi, I'm recording this as part of my graduate studies in nuclear engineering. This is my response to the question, is there an urgent need for the centralized disposal of spent nuclear fuel? My answer is no, for two reasons. First, I don't think there's any need for centralized disposal of spent nuclear fuel, period. And second, I don't think there's an urgent need for any new type of spent fuel disposal. As a first point, I think that spent nuclear fuel is more of a resource than a waste product. I think we're eventually going to be reprocessing it, and it's eventually going to be considered a valuable thing. For that reason, I don't think it's a good idea to ship this stuff out into the middle of the Nevada desert, out in the middle of nowhere. I think it's a better idea to keep it close to the nuclear power plants where it can be distributed to reprocessing centers more easily. Second point, I don't think there's an urgent need for any new type of nuclear waste disposal. I think it's true that the spent fuel pools at many reactors are becoming occupied. However, I think the dry cask storage technique is very effective and should be more than enough to last us for a few hundred years. This dry cask storage technique is exactly what it sounds like. You basically take the spent fuel and put it in a cement cask and put it in a parking lot. It sounds like a simple, crude technology, but in reality it works very well. This technology has been used since before I was born. There are certain casks that are older than I am, which have been doing just fine. Recent studies, recent like 2001, have cut open some of these casks that have been in use for over two decades, and found that there has been no significant corrosion, no significant radiation leakage. The fuel assemblies are still intact and well protected, and basically that the science technology works very well. So for that reason, I don't think there's an urgent need for any long-term storage. I think that the short-term dry cask storage on site at these power plants is just fine for now. There's no security risk because these casks are being stored on site. There's already extremely high security at all of these power plants, so it's not really an issue. Eventually, we are going to have to do something with these casks. Eventually, these reactors, these power plants are going to be decommissioned. They all have a set operating life, after which they're going to have to be taken apart. We've already seen some of the older reactors have to be decommissioned, such as the Sellafield. The Calder-Howell complex, which is one of the oldest reactors in existence, is now being taken apart and decommissioned. But what they're doing at that site is actually taking a lot of the waste products and just kind of burying it with the reactor, with the building. And that's valuable there because there are some other facilities at the same area which are still running, so security is just kind of expanded to include the decommissioned site. However, some of these plants are eventually going to be decommissioned, and it's not going to be a good idea to have to keep paying people to guard this empty building for the next couple hundred years. So eventually there will have to be a more permanent means of disposal. However, it's not urgent. We can easily keep using dry cask storage assemblies to store our spent fuel for the next 100, 200 years easily. Eventually, when these reactors are going to be decommissioned, we're probably going to want to find a more permanent solution, but it's not urgent and it's not strictly necessary. We could just keep paying people to guard the empty buildings. And considering how lucrative the nuclear power industry, power market is right now, putting some money aside to guard these buildings for the next couple decades is not really a huge cost to them. So in short, I don't think that there is a need for the centralized disposal of spent nuclear fuel. I think eventually we're going to find something better to do with it, such as reprocessing. And even if we are eventually going to bury it in the ground in a centralized location, it doesn't have to be done immediately. We can easily wait a few decades before doing it.